Blog Talk Radio.
Who is January Jones? She is not a young, beautiful, and talented actress on Mad Men. She is not an older, gorgeous, exotic dancer from the Johnny Carson Show. She is an author, and she wrote Thou Shalt Not Whine, the 11th Commandment, that reached #1 at Amazon.com. She is a success coach, spokeswoman, and fundraiser with Successimo.com, a free social networking, informational, and inspirational website. She is a reality TV golf personality with World High Stakes Golf televised on HDNet. She is a humorist and a winologist expert. She is your host today on January Jones, sharing Successimo stories. So sit back and relax and get ready to laugh and listen to Ms. Jones and her eclectic roster of guests on Blog Talk Radio as you learn while you earn. These stories plus sharing equal Successimo.com. Welcome, and remember, beware, because you're entering the no whining world of January Jones.
Now let me ask you a question. Have you ever made a U-turn in a car? We all have. Tell me, would you like to learn how to make a Y-O-U turn in your life? Have you ever wanted to know how to deal with a midlife crisis? We all have. Can you imagine using your mistakes to reinvent yourself? Tell me, do you know how to overcome your fears? Would you like to hear about 8 must-dos for making a midlife transition? Or better yet, is your life on the road not taken? Now, would you like to meet someone who has some of the answers that you've been looking for? Are you ready to learn while you earn? If you can answer yes or maybe to any of these questions, then you are in the right place, and I would like to welcome you to January Jones Sharing Successimo Stories. Today I will be introducing you to my guest, who is a success coach extraordinaire. She has provided us with wonderful, informative, and inspirational lessons and some great advice. Before I introduce my guest, I'd love to invite you to call in. The call-in number is 818-431-8506. That's 818-431-8506 with any questions that you have for our guest. Now, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my guest today. Originally, she was from Atlanta, where she trained as an opera singer. She moved to New York City in 1985 to pursue a career as a stand-up comedian. She worked all over the country and abroad and moved to L.A. in 1994 when she heard that Hollywood needed more blondes. She experienced an epiphany when she began volunteer work for Children of the Night, a shelter for sexually abused children in Los Angeles. This work not only woke up the healer in her, but also allowed her to begin healing her own adolescent sexual abuse at the hand of a clergyman. It prompted her to pursue a doctorate in psychology and to specialize in the prevention and healing of child sexual abuse. She now treats victims as well as abusers, for it is her belief that the best way to help victims is to help the perpetrators. A pre-licensed psychologist and clinical therapist, hypnosis, she is in private practice in Los Angeles, leading group therapy sessions for sex offenders at Pacific Professional Associates, and is also a busy public speaker. She has been quoted extensively in Cosmopolitan, Red Book, Woman's World, and others, and she's a frequent media expert on numerous radio and TV shows, including CNBC, CNN, Fox, Anderson, and The Rachel Maddow Show. She is a member of the Los Angeles County Psychological Association and Southern California Society of Clinical Hypnosis and the Association for the Treatment of Sexual Abusers. Her new book is out, and it's called U-Turn, Changing Directions in Midlife. I'd like to welcome Dr. Nancy Irwin to the show. Hi, Nancy. How are you today?
I'm great, January. Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Oh, we're just thrilled to have you with us on the show and share your story. And we want to talk to everyone about U-Turn. What a fantastic title. How did you come up with that?
Well, I've always loved puns, and I was making a change in my own life, and it was like making a U-turn. It was going in a different direction, and one day it just hit me out of the blue because you make the change. And so U-turn just came to me.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it. It's a killer title, and it's one that people remember, and your book cover is fantastic. It shows a U-turn on it, as well designed. Who should read this book? Who is this book for?
Actually, it's titled Changing Direction in Midlife, U-Turn, Changing Direction in Midlife, because I was 44 when I made my U-turn. And it tends to be in middle age where people are reflecting on the choices they've made. They're contemplating if they want to continue going in this direction in the future. So you have the benefit in middle age of seeing where you've been, where you'd like to go, and there's still enough time to turn things around. So it's actually, I hate the word midlife crisis because it doesn't have to be critical. That sort of connotes that something bad is going to happen. It's horrible and scary. Well, it can actually be a wonderful blessing to give you a whole new lease on life and do something that you've always wanted to express with yourself and for whatever reasons didn't have the skills, tools, ability to do so. So I call it a midlife awakening. Awakening.
Oh, I love that. That's so in tune with my philosophy. Because my philosophy is anti-whining. Instead of sitting there and whining, wake up and do something. I think that's very positive. What do you think about what's going on in the country now? The country seems to be in a midlife crisis, don't you think?
Well, yeah, we are still a very young country, so I guess you could look at it and say, well, we're beginning to go through some U-turns. Absolutely. And I think it's very important that the collective consciousness is very positive about it. I mean, all around, I'm sure you've heard this, the country's just going to hell in a handbasket. It's horrible. We're going to be a third world country soon. And that kind of thinking is not helpful.
No.
Like you say, it's like a mass whining. And we have to stop that because that is not the way to make any sort of change. You need to have a positive attitude and a positive mindset and focus on the solution, not the situation, how horrible it is. That goes nowhere.
Yeah. Well, when I'm driving, I have to tell you honestly why I love the title of your book, because every time I make a U-turn, for me it's a pretty big decision. And when you were working on this book, tell me, what stops most people from making U-turns in their life, in their personal life?
Oh, absolutely. It's fear.
Fear.
Absolutely. It's not going to work out. I'm too old. People think I'm crazy. And believe me, all around me, people thought I was crazy at 44 to go back to school and embark on a whole new career, which takes about 10 years of training.
Right.
I know. Well, it was 5 years of school for the doctorate program, and then it'd take, you have to do internship and all that. It's quite a long path.
Yeah.
But I was always committed I was focusing on the healing I got to do with people, how much I was learning, not how much money I was spending in student loans, how long the road is, because, all around me people were saying, well, how old are you going to be when you finish? And my answer was, well, the same age as if I don't.
Exactly. That is a fantastic answer, and we're going to hear from our sponsor and leave our listeners with that thought. That's wonderful, Nancy. We'll be right back.
All righty.
When you think that something is too good to be true, could you ever be wrong? The answer is yes, yes, yes when it comes to Successimo.com, because You will earn while you learn, and it will be free, free, free. Successimo.com is a social networking site that will change the way you learn and earn money while you work on your computer at home. This free website provides continuous learning opportunities while rewarding you for taking lessons and inviting others to join with you, receiving inspirational information. You'll receive points that can be redeemed for merchandise or cash. Just what does free mean to users at Successimo.com? It means that there are no fees, no donations, no pledges. You will never need cash, checks, or credit cards. All revenues are generated from advertisers at the website, just like Facebook and Twitter. This too good to be true social networking site is the newest paradigm on the internet for home-based business and nonprofit organizations. Do you hate asking people for money? We all do. And the good news is that Successimo is a fundraiser for nonprofits that does not require money. It just requires small amounts of your time or your organization's time to raise funds. When you do lesson activities, you'll receive points that can be redeemed for merchandise or cash. When you think of Successimo.com, you need to think learn while you earn, and always remember that passion plus purpose equals prosperity. Successimo.com is not only too good to be true, it is unbelievably innovative, and there are no downsides since no money is ever required. Successimo.com is the right website for now because it is the first one ever to pay people to participate. No one else does this. So sign up now and stop whining, start winning, and start being Successimo. Successimo.com is not only beyond priceless, it's a fantastic way to pay it forward.
Welcome back with January Jones and my guest, Dr. Nancy Irwin. Nancy, could we share your website information with my listeners and also tell them how they can get your book?
Absolutely. I have two websites. One is for my therapy practice, which is drnancyirwin.com. That's just DrNancyIrwin.com. And for the book, it's makeayouturn.com. Make sure you put a dash between you and turn, and it's YOU dash turn. I know it's confusing. Make a YOU dash turn.com. If you don't put the dash in there, it'll take you to some used tire store in New Jersey.
Okay, good. Thank you. And now where can we get your book?
It's available on Amazon.com. Ever heard of that site?
Oh, my gosh, I'm there all the time.
And it is available on Kindle.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I want to tell my listeners I've spent some time on both of Nancy's websites, and her Make a U-Turn website has fantastic articles, information on reinventing yourself, motherhood, ways to ease midlife transition, and it's just a wonderful resource for anyone who is going through midlife. We're not calling it crisis, but midlife change of direction. And
her awakening.
Awakening. And her other website, Born to Win, Dr. Nancy Irwin, is another resource with fantastic articles on sexual dysfunction, sexual abuse, fears, phobias, on and on. Actually, it's such a fantastic website that, Nancy, I hope you will come back again and we can do a whole show on that particular website.
Absolutely. Anytime. I don't think I answered your question earlier when you asked me who should read the book, because it is, written for those in middle age, but actually it's good for anyone at any age, because some of the stories in the book are much older. I have a woman who went to law school at age 69.
Wow.
Way beyond middle age. And also it's good for even the 20-somethings, because then they can see that they don't have to be locked in right now to make a career decision for life.
Wow.
So that they understand, that I can change my mind later. This is a beginning.
Yes, this is exactly our message to all of our subscribers at Successimo, that it's never too late. It's funny you said that, 69 going to law school, because I was at dinner last night with a friend, and guess what? That's what we talked about.
Don't you love stories like that?
Oh, yeah.
Another one, 73, and went back and got her Ph.D. in psychology. She's since passed away now, unfortunately. But amazing.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. What made you write this book, and why this topic?
Well, again, I was 44 when I made my U-turn, and around me people were saying, I can't believe you're doing this. You're crazy. You're out of your mind. Oh. And I was like, you know what? There are plenty of other people that are doing it. And just to support, to seek evidence to support that I wasn't insane for doing this, I started collecting stories of other people who were as crazy as me to do these things. And some were childhood friends who I discovered were making amazing changes in their lives. And then I found them in newspapers, magazines, and then it took a life of its own. People started emailing me, oh, you got to hear about this story. I heard about this friend of mine who blah, blah, blah. And it took me a couple of years to cull over 200 stories, and then I chose 43 that were the most diverse, and I tried to balance out the genders and the ages and the ethnicities, and some are very simple, some are very dramatic, so everybody can relate to one or more stories in this book. One is about a guy who didn't change careers. He made a U-turn in his personal life. He always wanted to be married and be a parent, and he did that after age 40.
Okay, that's wonderful. Now, is this a book for baby boomers? But actually, it's for any age, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because I'm a baby boomer, and a lot of us wanted to make changes, and a lot of people were afraid to, and now a lot of people are, even after retirement, they're making U-turns and starting new careers.
Right.
And fortunately, with technology, what it is now, people can run a business out of their smartphone.
And a lot of them do.
Oh, you better believe it.
Yeah. When we shared your biography with our listeners, we talked about your own experience of sexual abuse. And was this a defining moment, a turning point in your life dealing with that situation?
Absolutely. Of course, it wasn't at the time, because that was back in the dark ages when I was a teenager, and you didn't talk about those things.
Yeah.
It was a code of silence. And so I always make the analogy, it's kind of like smoking. You don't really see the results immediately, but over a few years, the pattern begins to develop. And so it took about 20, probably almost 30 years for me to really get what caused my dysfunction in relationships and sexuality. So that's when I started doing therapy, and the most therapeutic thing of all, and this is actually how I made my U-turn. It's a great story. I was, working as a comic and had a modicum of success. I wasn't a household name by any means, but I was a good road working comic, and I was the staff MC at the Melrose Improv here in Hollywood, working with people like, I don't know if you've ever heard of these people, Ray Romano, Jerry Seinfeld, nobody big.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, but when you're a comic, you only work about 30 minutes a day.
Yeah.
So I was bored, had a lot of time on my hands, and I started volunteering for a shelter in my community, and it was for sexually abused teens. Wonder why I picked that.
Yeah. There you go.
I absolutely fell in love with it. It waked up the healer in me, and all of a sudden that helped me heal, and I was able to see myself in these young girls' faces. And I was like, you know what, there's something more for me to do. Comedy's been fun, but it's time for me to move on. So I went back to school, retired from comedy, and voila.
Well, it's show business is lost, but it's a big gain for a lot of young people who are recovering from sexual abuse. And, it's so open now where I know exactly what you're saying. Previously, this was a big secret. No one talked about it. And it's so healthy to get this out in the open. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. That's the only way that we stop it, because now young kids who are going through this, feel safe in speaking out. We didn't back then. It does seem like I did try to tell one or two people, and they didn't want to hear it. So I was like, okay, this is my fault. I better shut up. And then you just bury that secret, and like anything else is not attended, it begins to fester in your soul, and a lot of other negative symptoms begin occurring.
And it stays with people, young people, and it affects so much. And I think it's such a wonderful thing that we're getting this out in the open and doing some things about it and helping these people. Now, briefly, we're going to have a word from a sponsor, but I do want to, when we come back, find out what advice you have for those making a U-turn. And maybe we could briefly touch on the 8 must-dos for people who want to change direction in their life with Dr. Nancy Irwin. Right now, we'll hear a word about your host.
Lately, there's been a whining epidemic in our world. People are even whining about whining. Are you sick and tired of listening to everyone whining all the time? So was January Jones, the author of Thou Shalt Not Whine, the 11th Commandment, that reached number 1 at Amazon.com. Ms. Jones based her book on a survey of the top 10 things that people whine about at all ages and all stages of life. January is a success coach that can tell you how to help others. When you buy Thou Shalt Not Whine, the 11th Commandment, you'll find out what people whine about, why they whine, and most importantly, how to stop them from whining. The 11th Commandment deals with all of the complaints and causes, and there are over 100-plus cures for whining with humor and hope in this edition. This is the perfect gift to give or get for any occasion. Thou Shalt Not Whine was voted the best gift to be given anonymously for those special people in your life. It'll make you laugh at yourself and others. John Curtis, a distinguished author, reminds us that it is the perfect gift for anyone who wants to be healthy and happy with humor, honey, and hope, and for people who are just hopeless. You can find Thou Shalt Not Whine at Amazon.com and at the Successimo.com Coach's Bookstore. Ms. Jones is an internationally known author in the style of Irma Bombeck, specializing in housewife humor, with her book being published in Korea and China. As Sally Shields, best-selling author, states, January Jones gets to the core of the matter with her quick-witted tips and cures that cut to the chase and will put any seasoned whiner to shame. So get reading and stop whining and start winning with Thou Shalt Not Whine, the 11th Commandment.
Welcome back with my guest, Dr. Nancy Irwin. Dr. Nancy, could you give us some advice for people who want to make a U-turn, Y-O-U, in their life, and what are some of the must-dos that they need to consider doing?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing I want to say is, since we touched on it earlier about the biggest stumbling block for people, is fear. Mm-hmm. I want people to realize that we're only born with 2 fears. Every precious baby comes in this world equipped with 2 innate fears, and that's for our protection evolutionarily. That's the fear of loud noises, and the fear of falling. Those, obviously, you can see in the jungle, they help protect us. That being said, that means all the other fears are learned. And whatever we've learned, we can unlearn. So you've learned to be afraid of change. You've learned to be afraid of aging. You've learned to be afraid of all that. Now, some fears are very helpful. It is helpful to be afraid to run out in the street so you don't get hit. It is helpful to be afraid of fire. But it's not an empowering fear to be afraid of making a change. So what you want to do is embrace it. I always tell people, don't wait until you're not afraid. If you're waiting to disappear the fear before you make a change, you may be dead. Go ahead and accept it, and it will begin dissipating in your taking action toward your goal. That's true of any sort of change, because most people are afraid all the time. In fact, that's the very definition of the word courage. Courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means doing the right thing in spite of the fear. So truly, without fear, there would be no courage. You cannot have one without the other. So embrace it and allow it to work for you, and turn it into a good, scary feeling rather than a bad one. It's a good, scary feeling when you have a baby for the first time, or you sign that mortgage, or the first day in college, or the first date. These are exciting, good fears, jumping out of an airplane, but it's something you chose to do, as opposed to a bad fear, which is having a gun to your head or something like that. So you want to be very careful about separating those two. Go for the good, scary. That means you're expanding your comfort zone, and you're allowing yourself to express who you truly are. And realize that it's much more fearful to stay where you are, bored, stuck, whatever, than to really go ahead and go for your goal. So allow your mistakes to be your best learning opportunities. I have this little plaque on my desk, and it's my very favorite thing. It says, wisdom is learned from failure. If you make a mistake or you fail at something, it doesn't mean you're a failure. Kobe Bryant loses all the time, but that doesn't make him a loser or a failure. He learns from what he's done. So we can all begin to do that.
We need to embrace our failures.
Absolutely. They're your greatest learning tools. Look back on your life. Weren't your mistakes your best opportunities to learn?
Oh, yes.
About yourself, about relationships, about business, whatever the case was.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And understand that most skills are transferable. No matter what you've done up to now, it can be taken and serve you into the next thing you choose to do. People think, oh, my gosh, you were a stand-up comic, now you're a therapist. Well, I do. My humor, when it's appropriate, helps lend some levity to the situation.
Oh, I bet.
Also, I do a lot of media appearances, so all of those stage skills have served me completely, and I'm able to work very well with creative artists here in Hollywood.
Oh, sure.
So you see, there's always something to learn that you can take from one thing to the next.
Oh, well, Dr. Nancy, you have shared so many wonderful things with my listeners, and we haven't completed the list, but I definitely would love to have you come back and visit with us again.
It would be my honor.
Okay. Well, we will make arrangements and have you back. Also, I want to share with my listeners your Born to Win website. Thank you to Dr. Nancy Irwin today. And for my listeners, tune in every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, 12 noon Eastern Daylight Time. My guests for the shows next week will be Tom Ingracia, Jill Borsos, and Kojenwa Meya. All three of them are fascinating people that will amaze, amuse, and astonish you. Be sure to catch all of our interviews with constant streaming at blogtalkradio.com 24/7. If you've enjoyed this show, please click the Follow tab under my picture and become a regular listener by registering with blogtalkradio.com. All your comments and suggestions are welcome. If you are interested in checking out our sponsor, Successimo.com's program, just go to their website, www.successimo.com, SUCCESSIMO. Look it over, and you can sign on without any financial obligations whatsoever. My sponsor email is januaryjonesinfo@gmail.com. I would love to mentor you and help you get started so you can learn, earn, and return as you play it upward. Successimo is an amazing opportunity to help out any nonprofits or charities that you work with. You can actually help them raise funds without asking for money. Yes, you heard me right. It's a positively brilliant plan that is easy to implement anytime, anywhere. So for now, my dear listeners, I want you to stop whining, start smiling, and start sharing Successimo with everyone you know. And if that doesn't work, then start eating chocolate, lots and lots of chocolate. Again, thank you to my wonderful guest, Dr. Nancy Irwin, and we look forward to having her back with us soon. This is January Jones thanking you for joining me on my journey today and reminding you to take care and stay safe.
We want to thank you for listening to January Jones sharing Successimo stories. Always remember Ms. Jones' personal mantra, if you think it, you can do it. That's what all of our success coaches have done with their lives, and so can you. You are the ultimate success coach in your own life. All you need to do will be to start sharing your own Successimo story with your family and friends. We hope that our stories will encourage you to explore an equation in the future that will combine your creativity plus connecting with others, and that will equate to creating cash for your future. Your passion plus your purpose will equal prosperity as you learn while you earn with us and January Jones, sharing Successimo stories.